We're in the middle of winter right now, and there's a limited amount of things that are flowering outside, but some of the things that bloom outside are incredibly fragrant. And I don't know if that's nature's way of trying to draw the most attention it can to the plants that are in bloom so that they'll be visited by the few pollinators that are out there in the world. But there's no doubt about it, and we get to enjoy that. At the same time, there's some things that are blooming that we normally in the January, February time are blooming indoors, and so you can take advantage of those too. So really overwhelm your senses with fragrance to make up for the fact that there's not as much to enjoy in the winter as in the spring or other times of the year. I'm Scott from GARDENWORKS. I just want to introduce you to just a few of the things that are blooming now that are fragrant, and actually taking advantage of a few of the things that are just the foliage is fragrant, but amazing fragrance. So let's get started with that. Well, listen, you know what? I could break this down to my top 5. And the top 5 for outdoors, I have a witch hazel, nice witch hazel over on the left here. There's a variety called Helena. And these orange ones seem to be not quite as fragrant, but still fragrant. And there's a yellow one. I've got a little group actually here, a little arrangement that I did that has a couple of the different things in it. So it's got the witch hazel in it, and there's the yellow one. And then it also has a viburnum's pink dawn in it. And viburnum pink dawn is winter blooming. I just cut this off the big shrub outside, and it's really quite nicely fragrant as a deciduous shrub. So the witch hazels, the viburnum pink dawn, those are 2 top ones for outdoors. And then probably the most amazing one, probably should be number 1, is the variety of Himalayan sweet box or sweet box. So this is sometimes you can't see the blooms. This one is a variety where you can really see the blooms quite well, but a lot of times the blooms will be hiding. You won't even see it. You'll just see the nice evergreen foliage, does well in the shade, and can be used as a ground cover because there's a lower variety too. You won't even know where the fragrance is coming from, but you'll sure smell it. So the Himalayan sweet box or sweet box is amazing. So nice. So that's number 3. Some of the things that we plant out for color are also very fragrant. It's amazing that I pick up the cyclamen, but I want to talk about the primula. It's amazing that some of the primulas are fragrant. So we put them in for cheerful color in little planters outside or on a windowsill indoors. But especially the yellow ones, they can be quite fragrant, especially when it gets a little bit sunny. And then we of course get the sort of gently persuaded to bloom hyacinths. And these are amazingly fragrant. And in a cool area, they last a nice long time, and of course they're available in more than just the blue color, pinks and whites and vivid purples. So that's sort of top 5. I said I would do 5, but I also want to bring to your attention the things that have fragrant foliage. So this is the lemon scented cypress. We use these a lot around the holidays, but you just do this. It's so lemony and quite wonderful. So that's something, every time you walk by, brush against it, you get the lemon scent. And the bright color looks great outside as well. Super good in planters. This is rosemary, of course. And really, what can you say? It's incredibly fragrant, and it's so sort of invigorating. The fragrance of rosemary really gives you a lift. So I always recommend having something somewhere along where you walk or by an entry so that you can really just reach out, touch it, and have the fragrance or brush against it. So that's a bunch of stuff for outside, but it's not everything, of course. There are others. Some of them start to bloom at the late part of the winter, so I have the Japanese skimia here. And the great thing about this and why I included it is because it's got great color from the buds. This is all flower buds on here right now. And they are going to open up as soon as the weather sort of warms up, February, March, and then they're very fragrant, very fast start to the spring season. But the main thing for winter is that they just look so nice. You're just waiting for them to open up so you can smell them. There's a couple things for indoors too. I want to show you some of those. There seem to always be something you can either buy, or even if you have one, they seem to bloom in the early part of the year. So let me show you a couple of those. This is a Meyer lemon, and citrus in general have very fragrant flowers. One of the great things about a Meyer lemon is that it blooms and bears fruit, of course, out in the wild or whatever, often through the year as opposed to just at one time. But boy, they sure seem to get a lot of bloom on them in January, February. It got one at home that's just covered in bloom now, and that's so the fragrance is so intoxicating. It's just amazing. So one of the best choices you can have for indoor growing, as long as you can give it nice bright light and maybe grow it outside on the patio during the summer so that it's nice and vigorous grower. Absolutely lovely. Along the same vein, really, are the jasmine vines. There's a couple different varieties that do well inside, but the jasmine polyanthum, I'm not sure if there's another name for that, but that's one that was just coming up and will be covered in bloom, amazingly fragrant. Cyclamen, are also fragrant, and we grow them in pots outdoors because it's so mild on the coast most of the time, and you just protect them if it gets 3 or 4 degrees below zero, and they have a wonderful fragrance. So that's another choice for indoors. We do have Valentine's Day coming up now as I'm talking, but this great little rose is a part of the Aromatica series that was grown as a potted plant for indoor use. So generally they're grown under lights to get them to bloom at this time of year, and they're very sweetly fragrant. Subtle, it's not like crazy, but it is, one of the things they always complain about roses is that cut roses and roses for potted indoors aren't fragrant. Well, this one is. And then what I've done with these, I've experimented them for a number of years. After they're finished blooming, I'll cut them back, and then I'll grow them outside on the patio the rest of the year, and they do it. They work really well. So, last year I overwintered it outside on the patio and had it come through. So really a great choice. Lovely little gift plant, or it's just wonderful to bring some fragrance into the home. So those are a few of the things that are great, wonderful, lovely fragrance. Earlier I was talking about rosemary, and we were chit-chatting back and forth about rosemary, and I thought, I should have mentioned, you can still use that plant in cooking. So another bonus to the rosemary is that it is a good plant for cooking and using as its standard herb use. These are a bunch of the lovely plants. There's a few I didn't mention. Wallflower that comes into bloom. The paper whites, or that you can force yourself. This is a bridal crown that I've got over on my left. So lots of choices for fragrance. I really think it just brings up the level of good feeling and happiness through this period of January, February, when things are a little bit bleak sometimes. Thanks very much for watching. I'm Scott from GARDENWORKS. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I look forward to giving you more tips, information, and fun stuff in the future.